Good evening. I am just so excited to be touching upon this topic, which is the absolute need of the hour. And more discussed is less in terms of what this industry needs. As managing director at MMA, I have the pleasure of decoding agentic AI and CX with some enterprise leaders who belong to verticals such as finance, such as consumer health, such as beauty, and allowing us a very diverse perspective. And these are charters in their respective organizations, and hence it's an absolute delight to have the opportunity to decode agentic AI and CX with specialists like them. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the leaders who are a part of this very, very rich discussion today. Let me start with Elizabeth, who's the co-founder and president at Commotion, which is a part of Tata Communication. Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome.
Hi, thanks.
Next, we have Sujay Ray, who's a head of CX, CRM, consumer care, and data L'Oreal, and not to forget, also an MMA India member. Hi, Sujay. Welcome.
Everyone.
We also have with us Shalini Kumar, who's the head of customer experience, Kenview, and also an MMA India member. Hi, Shalini. Welcome.
Hi everyone.
And Raj, who's the head of customer experience, Piramal Finance. Hi, Raj. With that, a big welcome to all of you. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. And as I open this discussion, I want to probably open it with something slightly more quirky and interesting. That if there is one word in which you have to describe agentic AI, okay, what would that be? Raj, can we start with you?
Think if AI was the spark, agentic AI is the fire, I would say.
I'm so glad we started with you. That's a great amount of fuel put into the rest of the group. Elizabeth, what would you say? One word to describe agentic AI.
Remove frictionless.
Okay. Sujay, what about you?
I would say it's not future, it's present. We are already living it.
Interesting. Shalini?
I would say it's magic. That's what we've been hearing. We're expecting to see it soon.
Very nice. Interesting. So, it's actually definitely something which is becoming now the nucleus of every organization. And, if I have to decode this further with you guys, just to start this discussion and to really give a larger context to everyone listening in and everyone consuming this piece of conversation, what is actually agentic AI to your organization at this point in time when it comes to the CX journey that we are sort of trying to apply it to specifically. So, Sujay, let me start with you. Given that you have a fairly large and complex portfolio with a customer base who is always very, very difficult to sort of convince and cater to because it's a very custom category. So, how are you, looking at, agentic AI and CX in your organization?
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Monica. Good evening, everyone. I think it's a nuanced and layered answer, if I have to put it, because it stems from the fact is that how we actually look at beauty, because it's not beauty for all, it's actually beauty for each, because the
Mm.
beauty codes are very different. And every consumer has a different need, every consumer has got a different challenge stage, life stage. And of course, then when you are managing a portfolio of 40 plus global brands, it becomes even more interesting but challenging at the same point of time. But if I have to put it like in a nutshell, from an AI perspective, how it has been earlier, it is like a search query. It's a
Mm.
quiz, like you put some queries, it gives you an answer. That has been probably the rudimentary model, but the
Got
way we have seen the evolution, and then the way we are seeing how the north star will be, it will be a beauty advisor or a concierge service where you are having a meaningful conversations with the agentic AI system, and you are getting your answers which are nuanced to you, which has got a lot of emotional depth added to it, because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, beauty is not just some colors, shades, or products or ingredients. It's technically an emotional benefit.
Understood. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. It's way too personalized. Yeah, and I think agentic AI can play a very big role there. Shalini, coming to you, at least part of the commonality being that you also cater to the women cohort in a big way, and therefore, how are you sort of thinking and looking at agentic AI in your organization at this point in time?
See, agentic AI, actually, the vision of, achieving it in the organization definitely is something happens on its own. Like a travel agent books a complete tour for me, right? But being in a healthcare, consumer healthcare industry, it's a lot of science and credibility that, we have to also maintain while getting into such zones. So right now, and especially for females, where it's very important to convince them via, certain way of explaining our products. So the
Yeah,
way we are using it right now, especially that we are just restricting it to marketing right now. We are still in the exploratory phase. So we are trying to understand the purchase behavior, the insights, the challenges. Are there things that can be used for innovation? Is there
sure.
way that I can kind of relate to the women in a urban versus a rural space?
Mhm.
How can I convince her? So there are multiple things I think which we'll be using in the marketing space itself to generate certain outcomes that is required to either drive brand or business.
Right. Makes sense. Raj, would love to hear from you because again, it's a very unique category that you represent in this particular group, and trust also plays a very big role there. So, how do you use agentic AI? Is a very strategic choice to be made, right? So, how are you guys thinking about it?
Great
Yeah.
question. Yeah. Hi, hey, Monica. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I think this trust in agentic I think is a fundamental question, because the moment you talk AI, and especially agentic AI, I would say trust from two perspectives. One is from the employees and our colleagues who use AI, and the other is from the customer's perspective. Now, from my colleagues and our teammates who use AI, there is this fear that you are actually building some Frankenstein of sorts, and you keep hearing stories about how software developers who worked with AI to build agents themselves lost their jobs, right? So these are not fables and stories anymore; they're the truth.
Yes.
But the fact still remains that it is like there is this famous quote of Jensen Huang. He said that humans who don't use AI will get devoured or beaten by those who use AI, right? So you will have to encourage employees and our teammates to use AI, learn AI, and build capabilities along with AI. And the one thing we need to do is build adoption. And to build adoption, you need to reward them, incentivize them, recognize them, and that's how you will build trust with AI. On
Mm-hmm.
the customer side, I think the most important element here, and there are GDPR guidelines worldwide. There is
Sure.
DPDP in India. Guardrails are going to be extremely important. Customers would be concerned about how their data is being used. And data is not just being used in terms of PII. We also use customer data to build models,
Yeah.
financial models, or models
So
to decide
interesting.
whom to lend and whom not to lend, right? And then there is a whole element of biases and discriminations based on the frontier models that you use. And mind you, most of these models are not made in India. So I think to build trust in with customers, it's important that you're compliant and you're also building trust with the customer, are transparent with the customers about how those models or how those credit decisions or those contact decisions can impact them. Educate customers on how they can build better in the
Mhm.
era of AI and agentic AI.
Very interesting. I think that's quite a mature view to have, and hear it from that perspective, given the category you represent. Elizabeth, the reason why I wanted to sort of bring you in after I hear the three, the three of them here, is because as a platform, you see it at a very cross category level all the time, right? And you are privy to a lot of the different kinds of decisions that are driving adoption of agentic AI and CX, right? So, what is the outlook you have as a platform and the way it is currently being adopted?
No, I'm glad you brought it up, and I'm glad you waited also, because you're right. I do come at this from a slightly different perspective, given that not only are we using agentic AI as a business, right, to help proliferate what we're doing globally as a company, but we are also using our part of our solution, or not our part, our solution is geared towards helping enterprises actually use agentic AI day to day to move their businesses forward. And so I think one of the things that's really interesting, and even just in listing some of the examples that were just shared, I think one of the things that we're really seeing is conversations with customers that are taking place with AI moving beyond point solutions. They don't
Mhm.
really, I think, as an example,
Yeah.
it's basically moving from stopping answering questions and start accomplishing and driving towards outcomes. So, for example, a chatbot could tell you where a package is. An AI agent can actually reroute that shipment, update your delivery preferences, send you a confirmation, notify the warehouse, all without requiring 5 different systems or humans to orchestrate it. And so the shift is, I think, that we're starting to see is from automation and conversation, from conversation to execution. And like another example of that would be something around like airlines, which is an example I use a lot because everyone on this webinar can relate, right? We've all called to make a change to a flight or tried to do it through an app, or through even a chatbot, right? And you might get a text, call the airline, wait on hold, talk to an agent, repeat everything because it has to get transferred to somebody's manager, and
Yeah.
doesn't have that context. And I think that's one of the things where that's really exciting about what I'm hearing from these last examples, but also where we're going is agentic AI is really changing that entire engagement, right? It already knows your flight was canceled. It's in the system. It knows you're a frequent traveler. It's connected to the loyalty program. It can automatically find alternatives and offer you a new itinerary. And then share that with you over the channels that it's connected to, right? It can make a voice AI call to you. It could send you a text message or a WhatsApp message. It can update your boarding pass. So I think that's where I see things that are getting really exciting, is brands starting to use AI, not just to have conversations and evolve, and brainstorm, right? But to actually be able to use it to execute actions today.
Fantastic. I think that was a great way to culminate this part of the conversation. So I hear you loud and clear that it is really playing a huge role in outcomes and driving business impact and engaging with customers better and really cater to what they need. So the entire value chain basically. So I think that's a great point to land at this point in time. And as we move forward, like you called out a lot of interesting use cases. I want to probably hear from each of the leaders on the call on the use cases that they are seeing emerge within their organizations when it comes to agentic AI and how are they really trying to adopt the same. So on that note, I want to come back, say, Raj, to you to begin with. So, what are the use cases that are now beginning to matter? Okay. And where are you beginning to see that early investment start happening in your context?
Yeah. Again, great question, Monica. I think especially in the finance space, we have clearly seen great traction on use cases like collections. We have seen traction in customer services and, of course, software development. These are frontier big areas where agentic AI is maturing. Not to
Yeah.
mention marketing, right? But I would add that generally in enterprises, what I say is that don't just start with the most advanced AI problem to make it a showcase. I think start with the
Mm,
biggest customer pain point. So,
mm,
and agentic AI works best when you find journeys where customers are dealing with multiple teams, right? Multiple systems, multiple follow-ups. And that's
sure.
where agentic AI has some disproportionate value because the challenge is not really answering the question. It's really the coordination that comes at the background. So a great example, and you must be also experiencing this with e-commerce companies, right? There was a time when traditional chatbots would just log in a complaint for a replacement or a refund. But today, a lot of these e-com companies, they just ask you to say they just put the order book in front of you. You choose the product that you need a replacement for. The OCR verifies the image, machine learning model checks for the eligibility, and there are and AI just works on arranging the pickup and refunding it to your account. I think
Mm.
this is where agentic AI counts. It really orchestrates multiple agents, multiple models to complete the entire journey. And the second thing I would recommend strongly for agentic AI journeys to succeed is look at high volume journeys where there are rules and rules which are well understood and the business impact is measurable, because finally you got to answer the CFO as well, right? When you It's only when agentic AI builds not just effectiveness but efficiency on the
Yeah.
enterprise side, and also builds trust and gradually increases autonomy, is
Mhm.
when you have proof that governance has matured and it's building real financial impact for the enterprise.
Absolutely, absolutely. Perfect. So that's an interesting use case again out there. Sujay, tell us what are the use case you're seeing emerging when it comes to adoption of agentic AI, and where are you seeing that early, uh, traction?
Thank you so much for the question. I think there are a couple of areas
Mhm.
where I have seen, and this is not from a beauty lens, but at an organization level, at an industry level, when I see
Yeah.
anything where there is some amount of automation,
Mm.
anything where there is some amount of efficiency that can be driven with the help of AI, is something. These are like the easy use cases to unlock, and we have heard some of the panelists have already talked about, like right from where Elizabeth said that there is boarding passes that can be automated, those check-ins, things like that. I
Right.
think those are like high volume but low intensity kind of a situations where AI is literally playing a role, or sometimes even we are also implementing things for our D2C, where a consumer can actually look at the order status, the refunds, if there are any issues, because those are things that can be addressed with low level of AI maturity, and that can be addressed at compared to some of the other high-end use cases where there is a lot of nuance which is involved. So those are still developing because that would need a lot of data to be inputted in the system for the agentic AI to
Sure.
be able to take those decisions. And I'll probably take a case like, for example, a consumer uh, puts up a query that, hey, I am a citizen in Mumbai and there are rains and there is a frizzy hair issue, and what is the kind of scalp problem I have, and I want a shampoo. It
Fair.
is a complicated thing. Maybe
Fair.
today we might not have an answer, but over a period of time we might know that how those kind of situations can be looked at. And of course, that is the kind of North Star we aspire to bring to our consumers.
Noted. Makes sense. Shalini, we heard, Raj mention that versus trying to solve a big problem with agentic AI, can we attempt solving true consumer pain points at the back of agentic AI, right? So, any examples which you feel resonate in terms of solving for a pain point could be your internally at CanView or beyond CanView, where you've seen agentic AI play a part in solving real pain points.
Yeah. So, thank you for the question. So, one of the things where, I mean, we've started our journey is
Hmm.
the GEO space, right?
Yes.
So, understanding and listening what consumer are searching for us, what is their pain areas, what's the problem they're talking about, and how these AIs are responding to them, right? So,
Right.
there is an ecosystem that exists, which is more of a one-way thing,
Yeah.
but for and that's not a much role for an advertiser, but we are now planning to take this model to further come to some outcome where,
Mm.
I mean, still it's very exploratory and we're still figuring out what if I'm searching for a product, I'm asking for which is the best baby cream, for a
Mhm.
sensitive skin, and
Mhm.
there are multiple data regarding the skin type and sensitivity, then how brand get can integrated into it, how can I convert that ask at the same time into a business, into a commerce, can I
Sure.
suggest my product at the same time and get the closure there itself, rather than letting the consumer step out of that ecosystem, go to some retail market and buy. So that end to end closure is something which will help to close the transaction then and there, to close the loop, once the challenge is understood. So
Makes
that's
sense.
something I think is really interesting. I'm trying to work on that.
Very nice. In fact, Elizabeth, I'm going to come back to you because I think we'll always get a more broader view, even beyond the categories that we're kind of right now engaging in this conversation. What are the pain points you think are really being addressed effectively in the portfolio of work that y'all have been doing, and where you think there's great benchmark setting happening?
Well, and so actually, the question makes me think of something that I heard Raj reference earlier that I was like,
Sure.
yes, that.
Okay.
He brought up, instead of going for the biggest problem, go for something
Yeah.
where there's a really high friction, and that I could not agree more. One of the things that I'm telling companies consistently is to start where kind of three things intersect. So one, anytime, any place where there's high volume, right? The next is
Okay.
going to be any place where there's high customer frustration. Typically, that is, again, going back to what Raj said, something with high friction. And then also, to now, the point just made just now was around clear business value. So thinking about, don't just do a piece of the puzzle, making sure that you're actually completing it, because you want to be able to measure something at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
things like appointment scheduling, order management, identity
Mhm.
verification. What would be some other examples? Billing questions, or I know I gave the example earlier about travel disruptions, right? All of those are super high friction, very repeatable,
Yeah.
obviously high volume. You're going to be able to see results there.
Yeah.
And so don't start with the hardest problem. I think the reality is that if you can find repetitive work that's
Mm.
consuming a lot of employee time, or that customers hate waiting around for it, and put yourselves in the customer's shoes, right? We all hate experiences that we have with brands. And
Yeah.
so those are great examples of the ones to pick up. Success is really going to create that trust, and trust is going to create momentum around agentic AI in your organization and also with consumers.
Got it. But to that, I'm going to pick your brains on one more part because you did speak a lot about, where volumes are high, where there's higher friction, etc. So, in a context like that, okay, where does CX automation really hit a glass ceiling, right? And where does agentic AI therefore become a higher enabler in taking it leaps ahead? You know what I'm getting at? Like, we've always witnessed automation. Automation has been around for a while, right? But now we're saying that there is agentic AI available to really solve for a lot of these complexities. So, where do you think that pivot is happening and any more enabling for such large volume challenges?
I would say, the reality is, and again, it's funny, these questions, they line up perfectly. But I think traditional automation kind of breaks the second the
Mm.
customer leaves that happy spot, right? The reality is, I think automation to date has really been structured to be more of a flow chart,
Sure.
right? That's, we think through the process, but that's not how the customer interacts with our brand, right? There's, departures, or somebody's explaining a situation over a phone call with a customer care rep, or they want, they're calling in and they're like, I don't just have issue number one, right? Press number one when you call in via IVR. They have issues, 1 and 4. Well, that creates a really high friction point, high frustration, and an opportunity for a brand to do better. And understand that their customer is multifaceted. And so I think when I think about IVRs, chatbots, traditional workflow engines, they're all built around that predefined logic. Whereas again, that customer behavior and mindset just isn't. The real world is messy. People are changing their minds. They're providing incomplete information, which doesn't do well with traditional automation. They may ask follow-up questions, right? There's a lot of things that are unaccounted for. And I think all of us who are using even just AI day to day are recognizing how helpful and how AI is able to pivot through those conversations. So it's able to reason through situations as customers are changing, and having that kind of interactive experience instead of simply escalating every single time something unexpected happens.
I'm so glad you said what you said, and which is why I wanted to start this one with you. So I'm sure the group resonates with the fact that journeys are very non-linear, and therefore agentic AI really sort of becomes a great enabler. And if I can use the word sutradhar, but I know that Raj is super excited to add to what we heard from Elizabeth. So go for it.
Hey, thanks. You know what? I liked your question, and I also resonate with Elizabeth. I wanted to
Yeah,
add one more thing there.
yeah,
That if you look at the trillions of dollars that have gone into AI and agentic AI, I think we are already hitting the glass ceiling. If you end up winding up few contact centers, call centers here and there around the world, or you just reduce some software development engineers, what are the pennies you're going to save? See, scaling down a contact center is a rounding of error on a P&L of large enterprises, right?
Sure.
It's not such a big cost saving. But what's going to truly matter with agentic AI? And I'll give you an example. If a
Yeah.
customer calls today, if I end up calling a customer today for a for a EMI reminder, for example, and the borrower says that, hey, my co-borrower has passed away, what will typically happen? There is an apology, I'm sorry to hear that, and then there is an intimation to a collections team. But what can agentic AI do? Agentic AI says that, hey, I'm sorry to hear that. You have an insurance against your loan. Here is, I'm sending you a form now. So there are these multiple steps that get orchestrated. The form is filled, a follow-up reminder is sent to the insurance company, the account is credited. I think
Yeah.
unless agentic AI, and think of what will happen for claims and the millions of dollars you spent building all these workflows, keeping renewal and claim underwriters all over the place. That is where true value is. For a bank, for an financial institution, true value lies in how it adds value to underwriting. That's at the core of every business. Unfortunately, and I'm saying something controversial here, we have blown this whole savings with AI on customer services and on software development engineers out of proportion. I think very soon you'll have a lot of dissonance coming around, and you're already hearing some noise about you already exhausted the token budgets in the first quarter. And one of the reasons for that is that you're not really going after the high value use cases, right? That's the point I wanted to make. I don't know if the rest of the group resonates, but
How we need to look at a platform and technology of this nature, right? So, before I move forward, Sujay, Shalini, anything you would like to add to what we just heard from Raj, from Elizabeth, on the context around, where automation really sort of tapers down and agentic AI really steps up?
No, I totally concur because, in fact, I was like, while Raj was explaining those things, I could actually understand some of those examples which I have personally, as a consumer, have faced when I had to literally reach out to a travel partner for refunds, and the kind of conversations the AI was doing was ridiculous. Like I ended up actually having a conversation for 45 minutes without getting any answers. So it can be sometimes frustrating, and I totally feel that the moment because these are based on decision trees, and these will work if you behave like a robot. The moment you go off the script, it kind of doesn't understand the nuances. And this is where I was just sharing that entire beauty example is that, okay, if the same conversation happens that, hey, monsoon, this issue, that issue, the AI will only immediately start looking at some of those numbers, if there is a return, what kind of ingredients, things like that. The emotional part of it, how it looks like, what occasion for it is needed, that entire thing will be missing. And as Raj was rightly saying, is that it's a rounding off error. We need to figure out the best impactful use cases. So if it is for maybe to identify some amount of fraud monitoring with in his case, or even in our case also, when we look at data, how it can actually help, maybe probably to help us plan our businesses, plan our contact centers, everything. That is probably where
Got
a
it.
lot of use cases can happen. Yeah.
Got it. Very interesting. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, Shalini, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think I'll just pick two things from
Yeah.
the conversation, which is quite
Yes.
relevant, is, how the traditional AI versus agentic AI, where right now we are seeing a lot of things are happening in different work streams, but they're all happening in silos. They're not
Mm.
connected to each other to make sense out of it. And I think that's where, it's beautifully done, where again, from the marketing perspective, that how understanding a consumer and the need, and then
Mm.
connecting with the right way, with the right language, to get the conversions done. Right now we're looking at a dashboard of different cohorts, what is working. We are deploying those cohorts on different platforms, and then we are looking at results at a business level. So all three are three different data points, and that's where I think end to end campaign management is something which will beautifully work with the agentic AI. Second bit, I definitely agree, it's not an efficiency thing. It's an
Mhm.
effectiveness, pure effectiveness. It is the outcome. And mostly what happens when we are working right now is the the focus goes more on how much are we saying, because it's just considered as an automation. But it's
Right.
not just an automation, it's actually the impact is where, it comes into play. So yeah, completely agree on these two things.
Awesome. I think we again managed to get some very rich insights which complemented beautifully amongst all of us. That said, what this now brings me to is, the need for sharing learnings, right? Because it is a new journey. And everyone has a different learning curve that's emerging. And that said, everyone is also at a different stage. We still know for a fact that in the industry, there are folks who are yet to begin. Then there are folks who are probably still experimenting in a very low risk small manner, and then there are folks who are super mature and super advanced, and those are reflected in kind of conversations we heard from Elizabeth on the level at which agentic AI is getting adopted through a platform like this. So that said, I think it's extremely important that we use this opportunity and this conversation, and everyone is at a different life stage and therefore brings a different learning curve to it. So from where you see it, where you could be working with the more mature ones and the not the laggards as well, right, who are probably moving slow. I'm trying to understand what are the learnings that we can share today in terms of what's working, what's not, or any catalysts which have enabled success, in the adoption journey, any of that.
Okay. I think I would go back to actually something I said earlier around
Yeah.
picking the right use case.
Yeah.
Because I think, again, like, I think the reality is success or completion of, to the point just made recently, right, about like choosing effectiveness over efficiency. I think if we can find a way to prove out something small, right,
Mm.
build momentum and confidence in your own team's ability to be able to come up with a use case that can be resolved, right? Where you can really be clear about what needs to go into the prompt that the AI needs to execute against, that you can connect the right systems, right? Don't pick a project where you have to gather, 20 different legacy tech systems into one place, right? Start with something that's manageable. That's going to breed confidence, which is really critical for AI, right? You want to build trust in your organization. You want to build confidence in your own team's skills. And you want to also see that AI can help. I actually heard a great example recently, and I've been using it in some of my speaking engagements, about how AI is like a new hire, right? I think we have these big ideas when we bring it on board, and we're like, they're going to start from day one, and they're going to be amazing. My life's about to change, but it's not that simple. What actually happens is you need to coach them, right? People don't, a new hire isn't going to understand the context of your organization. They aren't going to understand how you want emails written, what the expectation is for
Mhm.
building relationships and rapport. And so picking things that and helping develop them, right? You got to coach up the AI to be a great teammate. And so I think it's a good way. So I think those are two things right there. I would say, if you want success, you need to start small, and you need to recognize that it is not going to start from day one being perfect, right? That's why you start small, is you want to coach up the experience so that you can create examples in your environment that are replicable. And then the last piece I would say is look at your own personal experience with other brands, right? We talked about high frustration around changing a flight, or, picking the right baby cream, or things like recalls, or where is there a use case that is something that you understand, not just from a business standpoint, but also potentially from a personal standpoint. I think that can be really meaningful because you're going to have more input into the outcome.
Yeah, well put. And I'd like everyone else also to start chiming in. What are the learnings, Raj, you think you can offer in the journey so far that you've experienced?
So, Monica, would you like me to answer this in a sense that over time, what sort of kind of playbook we have employed to make Agentic AI successful, or you want to be very specific about a particular mistake we made while implementing it?
I think you could touch upon both.
Okay. So I often talk about this sort of four G's concept, and what are these
Mhm.
four G's? Basically, a guided journey. Always pick up journeys that are not running on their own autonomously today, right? They require guidance. They are clear pain points in those journeys, and they span multiple systems. And it's not just a cool AI demo, that is what I would pick first, because that is
Okay.
where value lies, correct? And second is to ground the context. The 4G is basically ensuring that every actor in the game, whether it's the customer or whether it's the underwriter or the person sitting at the branch, everybody has right context to make informed decisions. That's
Mm.
guided context. And then I would clearly care about guardrails, because for whatever the models and AI can do, we also should define what they cannot do, right? And areas of seeking customer consent, and when it must hand it over to human so that there is discretionary choices that human beings can make. And finally, the fourth G is governance, right? It's important that we measure outcomes. There are clear observability and auditing of all those decisions that have come, so that you improve the system over time. Because
Right.
agentic AI will only work with fine tuning. And there is one
Yeah.
last thing, there is a lot of conversation about AI and agentic AI, and most of us talking from pulpits about, hey, adopt more, do it more. But remember one thing: the CEO or the CXO is the last person actually using AI. Who's
Sure.
really using agentic AI? It's the front end employee. It's that supervisor. I would say the biggest learning I find is that empower them. Let multiple agents proliferate in your organization. Give them tools to write their own agents. Let them make their own assistants, right? Then only you will create confidence and democratize this AI revolution. I think that's one of the single most important things I have learned over the last couple of years. Does that make sense?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Makes perfect sense. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sujay, tell us what's your experience so far and anything that you think you want to, really sort of bring out as a unique perspective which could add value to this particular thought around, learn fast, fail fast journey.
No, I think all of us are in that learn, unlearn, and relearn journey. And because that is how probably the AI also works. It's a
Yeah.
5-year-old kid, maybe. And this is how we need to teach the AI for our particular business case to understand the thing. And as probably Elizabeth was mentioning, that figure out that use case. I think more often than not, organizations get obsessed with the technology and don't focus on what is the use case. So maybe it's a small business problem that needs to be solved, or there is a small consumer tension point that needs to be looked at. So it all
Yeah.
should start from that problem, that use case that needs to be addressed. And it is never an ROI conversation, because if it's an ROI conversation, all the conversation will go into that. What is the efficiency? What is that reduction? All those things. It has to be the effectiveness and the problem solving thing. And one of our bigger learning was that when we were also deploying, and it has been a journey for us also in the last couple of years, is that it is just like uh, just like compliance in any
Yeah.
organization. AI is also the responsibility of every function. It doesn't
Yeah.
come that okay, fine, there is one department or a function they will drive, or there are a bunch of individuals who will drive. It can be driven only when there is some amount of basic education that has
Right.
happened across each and every employee within that ecosystem, that what AI can bring into the, because that is when you will remove those friction points, because most of the times you will often see the challenge is the adoption. We have seen that thing in our country when in 80s and 90s, when computers came into the picture, and how organizations were changing from a manual system to using a computer. I think today everybody is going through that change. So it is all about training your workforce to be
Mm.
better prepared to use AI. And this is like that age old thing which we have been now saying, it's not AI who is going to replace you, but the person who effectively uses the AI will replace you. So that is the gamut. And I would also love to end it with a nice acronym, because I'm part of a beauty organization. So we say it as something like a glow. So like G for, you have governance of data, because that is the bedrock of everything.
Right.
L is the luxury personalization which we do, because at the end of the day it is beauty for each and beauty for all. O is for maybe omni-channel beauty because consumers are experiencing our products across O plus O environment. And W is for wise creativity because you don't want to push the boundaries so much that it doesn't look authentic. So yeah, that is how I think we can look at it.
Awesome. Super valuable. Shalini, tell
It's
us what
very,
you think.
yeah, actually, it's interesting for me also. And I'm also learning a lot because I'm still at the start of my journey and hearing, how already certain frameworks are existing and a lot of learnings have gone into creating playbooks. Definitely something, for me also to learn. But I think the stage where I am right now, there are still a lot of concerns, in completely adopting it, like, or, getting familiar with the whole agentic model. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things is losing, let go of the control, because
Correct.
how much would you let the system do things for you without understanding what's going behind it? How much is it visible to you? Are we feeding the right data, the right context into the system to say, okay, once it's done, the outcome is something which we need to, which is the outcome. Basically, it's good or bad, that is how it's going to happen. I think these kind of challenges still exist at our stage. How much control should we let go? How much of interference is still required to understand the model? What kind of org structure, what kind of talent is required, to even drive the adoption within the organization? Or so I think still those things needs to be solved, but glad to hear that there's already learning existing, and I'll take some learnings from there.
Lovely. I think everything that I heard, I feel like it uh, falls in these three in these three E's somewhere. It's experiment, it's educate, it's empower. In everything that we spoke, it's really what stood out the most is that these are the three E's to really sort of, you know, front end with if we really have to adopt agentic AI and drive business impact and true value out of it, right? So it's really educate, experiment, empower. So that said, I have in the interest of time, two last questions for you guys. One of them, which we definitely must touch upon, and is very, very important, is the fact that whilst yes, agentic AI is intelligent, it is able to be way more effective, and so on and so forth. But the reality is that there is still a need to balance it rightly with human intervention and empathy, right? Where we need to know, where human intervention is needed, in what form, and how does one really balance the execution with human empathy and intervention. So again, Elizabeth, I'd love to kick this off with you to understand what is the recommendation as experts you guys make on how should the balance work in terms of human intervention and automation.
I think it's not really about AI versus human. I think it's about obviously the context, the guardrails that you've got in place, and the policies that can be executed against. But
Yeah.
when I think about it, I'm really thinking more about like judgment versus the execution, as opposed to that AI versus human. So AI is obviously fantastic at executing those policies consistently, instantly, following something very specifically. Humans are still better at navigating ambiguity, especially in the absence of kind of extensive context, right? The more context that you provide something along with those guardrails, the more you're able to limit hallucinations. But obviously, humans are able to say, acknowledge like their capacity for being incorrect and are okay with the ambiguity of absence of concrete response. And so again, humans are kind of better at navigating the ambiguity, the ethics of things, and also emotionally complex situations. But with the right context, AI can do that really well. So the more that you're educating your AI and establishing a foundation, the stronger the system is going to be. But you also want the system to know when to act, and also when is the best to hand off or have human in the loop, or an escalation. And then I think the reality is that like the smartest AI is the AI that knows its own limits. And I think that comes with establishing that context and those guardrails.
Wow. AI that knows its limit. I'm going to use that one. Okay, interesting. What would you say, Raj, in terms of, especially again, the space that you operate in, that balance is
Yeah,
important, and I couldn't agree more that judgment definitely plays a big role, and the ability to
yeah,
know when it goes to a human. And in your examples, also you made a mention on it. So tell us, what is the way you do it?
Yeah. Thanks, Monica. See, I'm going to be the outlier here, and I'm going to
Okay.
be blunt. See, a year back, you thought that AI is very good, very bad at empathy, and may not be able to understand. Like I can see you say that with a smile, and I'm able to recognize that as a human.
Yeah.
And even if I were not seeing you, I would know that you're being cheerful while talking to me. Now, pipeline AI has moved to voice. So you have removed those boxes of ASR and speech recognition to put it and text to speech. It's voice, and voice to voice means models and AI can recognize empathy. They can recognize compassion, right? So AI is really testing the limits of where it can go. And we are talking ASI already, we are artificial super intelligence, we are talking singularity. I don't want to be the purveyor of bad news, but it is very hard to say that AI won't be able to do this better than humans. Second is taste in AI. We have heard of taste in AI. Some of the panelists would already know what I'm talking about. There were times when there was this famous beverage company which made an ad with AI and got a huge backlash. But you see the sort of ads and trailers that are coming out now. They are just amazing. I mean, if they could compete at the Cannes or the Oscars, they would win, right? So I don't know the answer, Monica. Honestly, how are you going to work? How are millions of people who are in white collar jobs going to be saved? I don't know. And there is, if you see a recent Pew Research in the US, it clearly says that the ordinary American is extremely scared of AI, scared of jobs, scared of social security, right? So I really
Right.
don't have the answer. I really don't
I
have the
love the
answer.
authenticity, and that makes perfect sense. I think we're all trying to sort of feed off each other's experiences and understanding. So, Jay, any view from you?
Yeah, I have a slightly different point of view in that because and
Mhm.
I'll take probably some of the examples from beauty as a category.
Mm.
Uh, Here I feel that something when it because the beauty codes are so personal to everyone, empathy plays a very important role because at the end
Right.
of the day, uh, anyone uses a beauty product to just uh, there is some amount of feel good that that person needs to have. There is some amount of personalization that needs to have, and there is a point where there has to be some amount of handover between, at least today, between an AI and agent, like AI or a human, because some of these situations are so emotional related, so nuance related, and maybe I'll take an example. Like
Mm.
imagine somebody is getting ready for their wedding day,
Right.
and they want some kind of suggestions. They have a skin reaction. It is a situation where they want a perfect answer. It is their
Mm.
D-Day.
Mm.
You don't want an AI to give some kind of cold empathy at that moment. At that moment, that person needs probably maybe sometimes just a listening, somebody who can listen. And I can believe you me, and I can tell you because we manage a massive contact centers, and more often than not, we receive experiences where somebody has got a reaction, something hasn't worked well with their skin tone, skin type, hair. Sometimes they just need a listening ear, and after that 15-minute conversations, there are times when you are unable to give a solution, but they just feel good about the brand and they just feel good about the experience, and that is probably the need. Then that was the need of the hour at that point of time. So it also depends on category to category, industry to
Agreed.
industry. But today, and this is my point of view, is that we there has to be still some amount of handoff between a AI and a human.
Perfect. Makes so much sense and very nuanced in context with the category you're talking about. So, before we move into a short rapid fire, which should really help leave some last mile triggers for all of us, for everyone who would want to really juice this conversation, because I must say we've got some fantastic insights through everything we've heard. But Shalini, anything you want to add to this whole conversation we've been having on the balance and where human intervention becomes, important, or how one sort of looks at the best of both.
Yeah, I think from consumer healthcare industry perspective, human involvement is still very important. There are a lot of things and a lot of issues that we keep hearing, which I don't think an AI is ready to handle as of now. So still a lot of learning needs to be done for AI to reach that level that it can automatically handle that such queries. Plus there's a lot of governance that exists in this space, a lot of medical, regulatory, legal things that exist. So
Hmm.
I think it's still be a it's I would say it's still 30/70 kind of ratio, the space right now where I am in. It'll take some time to reach to a level where we'll be completely confident of AI taking over the human thing.
At this point, I'm going to kind of move towards a small rapid fire, which I think will leave a little more provocation than everything else that we've already said to provoke thinking enough and more. Are we ready? Can we give this a shot? Yes, a quick, very quick rapid fire, and rapid fire has to be rapid in the sense top of mind, 2, 3 words to answer whatever I'm going to kind of throw at you, and this should be fun. Okay, so I'm going to go no specific order. Anyone can start, anyone can kind of follow it up. So let's go. So the first one is, what is that one thing companies should stop doing immediately in the name of AI powered CX?
I'll chime in. I would say don't replace people, replace friction, right? Customers aren't waking up thinking, I want to talk to less people. They want their problem solved faster and with less effort.
Perfect. Okay.
I was going to say stop firing people. Yeah, but Elizabeth, you.
Anyone wants to give this a shot, or I could move to the next one?
Say stop spam bots.
Wow. Okay. Here's the next one. One bet you're making on where agentic AI takes customer experience in the next 12 months. Like, what's that one bet that you're making, which you feel at the back of agentic AI will take CX as an experience to the next level as leaders? Sujay?
Maybe if the models evolve, there is some amount of basic prescriptions, and when I'm saying basic prescriptions,
Mm,
I want to clarify, it's not in the medical industry, but maybe from a beauty perspective, that can be possible because once you have a plethora of data and purchase history and consumer interaction data, that
makes sense.
basic thing can be done.
Perfect. Sounds perfect. Sharani?
Yeah, I think the what I spoke about is the next 12 month I want my campaign end-to-end campaign management should happen.
Anyone else wants to give this one a shot?
Yeah, so
I
I'm betting on building AI capability in people. So I'm betting on my people, not on AI.
Mm, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think the biggest thing is that my biggest bet is that AI stops becoming another channel and it really starts becoming the operating layer across every channel, right? It's going to be about, carrying context, understanding the journey. And so the companies that have the smartest orchestration, that's where agentic AI is going.
Perfect. That makes absolute sense. Now, this one I'm going to see if all of you can give it a shot. It's important, and yet it just shows a perspective which we should all be able to offer. What is the most overrated agentic AI claim in CX right now? Anyone? Overrated agentic AI claim.
I think there's an obsession with and a focus on being human-like. But the reality is, at the end of the day, what a customer cares about is, was it helpful? Did the work get done? So obviously, human-like is table stakes. But the real question is, were you able to execute and get it done?
Love that.
I think
And Shabnam.
still a lot of learning needs to be done. Like the hype is
Mhm.
that a lot of context already exists, but I
Yeah.
think still there is a way to go here.
Okay. Sujay?
I think Elizabeth ended up reading my mind. I was about to say that thing. It's exactly we it's like as if it can behave like a human. There is still a long way to go, in my
Fair
opinion.
enough. Fair enough. Raj?
Yeah, see, I want to answer that question with a caveat that I have a lot of respect for our vendor partners, our software vendor partners, but every software vendor partner we meet claims to be running a use case that has said millions of dollars for every bank or finance company in the industry, right? So I think that's still overrated. I think that's one thing I would say is overrated.
Okay, and did we miss anyone on giving us a perspective on an overrated claim? Did everyone give it a shot? I'm going to give it a shot too, because this is definitely something I'd like to also add to, because An overrated agentic AI claim is to believe that it's working for you when you're sleeping. Sorry, it's not. Don't be
It
under
might,
that assumption.
it might one day, Monica. It might.
Are we talking about right now? So, in this context, given all the beta issues, it's not, it's an overrated one. Of course, there are some who cracked it, but yeah. Okay, the last one. One decision you'd let an AI agent make without a human in the loop, and one which you never will let an AI agent make. Now, this one we should go for. A decision which you will let an agent make, and a decision which you will not let an agent make. So, Jay, let's hear it from you.
Maybe something like a replenishment or a reorder kind of a thing. I will let AI to manage that thing.
Mm,
And apology. If the brand goes wrong, then I will let a human manage that, because at the end of the day, it needs to come from the heart.
you're just apt at the job you do, I have to say. Okay, that was really well answered. Shalini, what do you think?
I think I'll take the easiest thing that AI can do, a simple approval process on MLR, customizing, saying yes. I think that is something I can go ahead with right away.
Okay.
But something that I won't go ahead with is something that I haven't tested yet. So still to explore. My testing and learning is being done. I don't think
Mhm.
I'll let go of anything to AI.
Understood. Raj,
Convince my wife to let me watch the football match.
is something you will want agentic AI to do? Okay. Okay, great. We're getting to a Friday. That's a fair answer. Okay. And what you wouldn't?
Not do that to me.
Okay. Smart again. Okay, great. Elizabeth, tell us what is your view there?
There's a lot that I would leverage AI for, both business and professionally, but I would
Mhm.
say no brainers are anything that are routine operational decisions, right? Things like changing an address, calling to make an appointment, issuing a refund, changing a flight, right? Things that require connectivity between systems. I also love it for brainstorming. Anything that impacts someone's life or finances materially. So if you're, for example, denying an insurance claim or making medical recommendations, I think that's like a no play zone.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Cool. So, any last comments before we wrap up and let you guys go? Any last comments, any last words which any of you think would sort of make this discussion complete?
If I have to say, I would just say that you started with this thing that there's a lot of buzz around this word, and I think
Yeah.
everybody is in a journey to learn about it. There are
Yeah.
few who have already explored, and who are at a place where they're comfortable doing it, but not a lot have been talked about it. For people to really understand that this is where it can take up to. We are seeing, and I would rather prefer, if there's something that can help the beginners to understand these are tested and learn thing and easy to go, rather than going through the exploratory phase and then reaching to the same level of understanding. So I think that needs to be really talked about in the industry right now.
Sure. That's an input for us too. Appreciate. Anyone else for any last comments? Only if you have any, but otherwise we're good.
Yeah, I just want to say that I hope I mean, the question is not binary whether it is with agentic AI, is it humans or AI?
Yes.
And this is the hope that while AI scales, humans will still lead. I just want to leave that thought.
Lovely. Well put. So, on that note, I also want to just add to what Raj said. I think we have to really train ourselves to be able to ask the right questions. That's where the journey really begins. I don't think we've been ever so, sort of coerced into building on the skill of asking right questions as we are now, because everything that we get out of the technology is based on what you input and how you input it and what you ask it to do. So the more you polish the skill of asking and the more curiosity you're able to sort of build into the learning journey, the more you can get out of it. I think that's like non-negotiable in today's context, and that's what we should all attempt. And of course, we always have to be open to a whole lot of reverse mentoring. Like I heard Sujay say that AI is like a 5-year-old kid, and we actually have to be willing to let a 5-year-old kid mentor us. So let's gear up for that one. And on that note, thank you very much for doing this conversation with me. I learned a lot. This was super valuable, and thank you for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.